Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be giving you 7 spoiler-free, unspoiled thoughts on Helen Dewitt's The Last Samurai, which I finished a couple of weeks ago and find myself still thinking about. So yeah, this is essentially a single book review. If you're new to my channel, then hi, welcome. My name is Shelly and I really love reading and talking about reading. I am one of those people that feels like talking about reading is half the fun. So if you like the vibe and you'd like to subscribe, I would encourage you to do so. Also like the video, that always helps. And without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. The book in question is The Last Samurai by Helen Dewitt. This was first published in 2000, and my copy is from the publisher New Directions. Helen Dewitt does not have a huge catalog of work, and I am excited to share some thoughts about this. So thought number 1, this book is incredibly difficult to summarize. It's just an odd book. I've tried a couple of different times in a couple of different videos and in a couple of different ways to summarize what exactly this book is about, and rather I find myself kind of stumped. So what I can say is that essentially the book is about a single mother and her very intelligent son and their relationship, which will actually lead me into thought number 2. This book is not sappy. Even though this book is in its core, at its essence, about a mother and son, this book manages to avoid anything that comes near any type of sappiness to saccharinely sweetness. This book is not at all cliche or stepping into that pothole of being endearing or sweet. And because it is about a mother and son, I think it would have been so easy for Helen DeWitt, to take that direction of being really just have a moment in which she takes it into that direction of being overly sweet or overly endearing, or even touching upon like that, I don't know, that place where it's like, and it all ties up in this beautiful aw moment, and it manages to avoid that to a T. Now, is this also a way for me to avoid talking about my other points because this book is hard to talk about? Perhaps. Thought number 3, Helen DeWitt is incredibly intelligent. In The Last Samurai, she is really interested in how things work. And if you're thinking about maybe mechanics as I would have when somebody says someone's interested in how things work, I think of mechanics. She's not interested in that type of how, although aerodynamics does play a role in this book. She's also interested in how music works, how the listening of music works. She's less interested in the history of music and more about how we experience music. Also, she's interested not in different languages, as in like there are people who are speaking a bunch of different languages in this book. She's more interested in how people learn language and how we acquire language and the differences between different languages. Now, if that sounds incredibly boring, believe you me, it's not. Somehow she writes about this subject and makes it really, really interesting and actually very accessible. So that actually will bring me to my 4th thought. This book surprised me because I thought it would be kind of difficult to read, and it wasn't at all. The language, even though she's talking about these incredible concepts, sort of very high level concepts, the writing is incredibly accessible. very accessible to the point where it is not putting on airs. She is in no way trying to condescend her audience, even though the topics in which she's covering might lead one to think that she's talking over people's heads, or she's trying to talk over the audience's heads, or to talk down to her readers. But she manages to avoid that with perfection, actually. I found myself not only wanting to read the book, but finding her language almost cozy and very readable. And when I was away from the book, I wanted to get back to it. When I got back into it, I only wanted to read more. So that doesn't really lead me into my fifth thought. That does not lead me into my fifth thought very seamlessly, but I will mention it right now. And it's that I don't understand how this book was made into a movie. So I think the more popular version of the two stories, The Last Samurai, the book, The Last Samurai, the movie was a huge hit. It was like a huge movie, maybe partially because Tom Cruise is in it. I have not seen the movie, but now having read the book, I don't understand at all how it was made into a movie. So there was a blurb or a review saying that if you are concerned about reading the book because you don't want anything to do with Tom Cruise and you weren't interested in the movie, and so why would you read a book in which it stars Tom Cruise? Why would you read a book in which the movie of the book, the movie version is starring Tom Cruise and maybe is not your thing at all? Do not worry, the book has almost nothing to do with the movie, according to other reviews of this book. And having read the book now, I really truly don't understand how they made it into a movie, because I actually don't think it really lends itself to movie making at all. Partly because one of the features of this novel are all of the different languages that DeWitt is exploring. Our main characters, Sibylla and Ludo, are very interested in language, and Ludo has an inclination towards that. It's actually part of his genius. He's a prodigy in a lot of ways. And the way that she integrates the conversation about language and the way that she incorporates language is that there are Japanese symbols and Greek symbols in this book, which actually is a really important facet of the story. So having had that and the thoughts about language, I don't really know how that translates into a movie very well. Also, the formatting is really different and really unique, especially at the beginning of this novel, which again, I don't really understand how that would have translated into a movie. Maybe I just need to see the movie. And actually, speaking of movies, maybe the one connection is that Sibylla is obsessed with the Seven Samurai movie by the director Kurosawa's masterpiece, Seven Samurai. So she is obsessed with that movie, and it does have a huge influence on her son. And so maybe they pulled inspirations from that movie to weave into The Last Samurai. But I kind of don't understand it. And partly it's because the uniqueness of this book, it has to do with language and formatting and getting all of that correct. So anyways, one of the thoughts that I had, I just don't really understand. I think I'm at thought number 5, but my counting may be off, and if so, I'm very sorry. So I'll go with it. Thought number 5. Because Ludo is a genius and he is this kiddo, I thought it was really interesting, and I've only kind of figured it out in retrospect, that Ludo creates his own hero's journey, which is kind of incredible because it is about genius, and so it makes sense that as a genius, he wants to go on a journey, and in this case, the journey is about his dad and who his father is and what that means. And so he ends up like very much like creating, because of his genius, ends up creating this odd hero's journey for his own self and for his own sake, which I thought was really cool. And it took me a little while to really figure that out. And so I thought, wow, what a genius thing to do, is to create a genius kid who ends up geniusly figuring out that he needs to go on a hero's journey, and then doing that and doing that in his own way. So yeah, and then as I mentioned, this is maybe thought number 6, hopefully I'm still on track, that the genius of things, that is a huge conversation in this book. It's like how geniuses work, or shedding light on a genius person, prodigies of all different kinds and all different ways. And in a lot of ways, I feel like she talks about, DeWitt is talking about the multifacetedness of genius. One can be an incredibly smart, brilliant, amazing person, but is someone who also doesn't make smart, brilliant, amazing choices, and the repercussions of choices throughout our lives. And so it's this strange thing, I think, sometimes when we think somebody is very smart, that they also make very smart life choices, that pressure is on them. And in a lot of ways, she's showing us all the different ways a path of genius can go. Some of it may be more towards that of mental instability, and some of it is like really inhumane, or sometimes what they're genius for isn't really what they actually love or what they've contributed to the most about. Like, just because you're a genius in this one area doesn't mean that you haven't contributed to another area in some really brilliant and impactful way. And so she's exploring the idea of genius, and she does it in a genius way. My gracious, how many times can I say genius? And I walked away thinking, wow, someone being very smart, someone being a prodigy, there's a multifacetedness to them that I hadn't really considered, and that she pushed me to consider. And finally, the 7th thought is that this book is about boredom. And there's even a quote on the end, and it says that the mother thinks boredom is a worse fate than death. Now, if you think about it, that means that that Helen Dewitt is promising to not bore us. That if we are bored, then we are suffering a worse existence than death. And so in a lot of ways, it's a super high bar to set, because it says that in like the beginning of the book. And in a lot of ways, she delivers. I wasn't bored. I was not bored throughout. And I thought it was so fascinating, so thought-provoking. And so I will leave you with sort of my assessment and who I think it'll be for. My assessment is that I loved it. I thought it was so shockingly engaging. It was such an engaging and interesting book. As I'll mention perhaps again, is that there were moments where I would pick it up and I would say, oh, I'm only going to read 20 pages tonight because I'm tired. And then I'd end up reading 50 because I was so fascinated and curious and interested in what she was having to say. And I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this book and thought it was in a lot of ways very smart and very intelligent, but amazingly in a way that is not talking down to the reader at all. And very affecting. I've been thinking about this a lot since I finished it. The second thing, which I'm going to deliver, who do I think this is for? I think this is for adventurous readers who are not bothered by works that aren't sweet. I know some people really enjoy their sweet endings, their happy endings. I took some notes. So adventurous readers who don't mind puzzling out a book and enjoy weird formatting. I don't think I got everything that DeWitt was trying to say in the first pass, and I'm really okay with that. And I think that a reader has to be okay with that as well. Maybe not getting everything in the first pass of it all. So an adventuresome spirited reader. And there was a lot of puzzling out, but to me I found that enjoyable. But if you're not a puzzler and you don't want to embark on that journey, then I would say, stay away. And then also someone who can appreciate, can enjoy a bit of weird formatting, but without any gimmicks. I don't think it was gimmicky. And so just know that there are some books I think that have weird formatting that are gimmicks and people like the gimmick. This is weird formatting, but without any gimmicks. I feel like it played an integral role into this novel. And so someone who can appreciate that aspect of the book. And that's it. Let me know if you've read this book. I would love to know. I want to know your thoughts on it. I also want to know if, you are now thinking about picking it up. I know that I was just ever so interested in this book, and I'm so glad that I picked it up. It's a weird one. It's a weird one. And in the best, most wonderful, amazing way. So let me know your thoughts down below, or a book that you think might also fit those same parameters that you think I might like. That would be great too. Leave everything. I love conversations. Leave it all down below. I'd really appreciate it. And yes, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all in my next one. Bye.